Today's video is kind of a bittersweet situation for me. I've got this big list of videos, ideas that I'm gonna do, and trying to come up with ideas that other anglers haven't put out yet, or that are getting inundated, like how to tie an FG knot or something of that. That's always kind of the example I use. I've created this giant list of video ideas, and one of them that I had was, what are my 5 most memorable tournament moments or fish that I've caught in my career? The timing on it, I was gonna do it in the off season, just kind of as a filler video. But the timing on this one, the timing was right. And I'm really gonna talk about one catch in particular, and it is one of the most memorable fish catches I've ever had, and I happened to catch it on film, so it made it even that much better. And it really has more to do now, in retrospect. The one that I'm sharing with you has more to do with the person in the boat with me than the actual fish catch itself. And I'm going to get to the fish catch, but I'm going to lead up to the story of this deal. And the reason it's bittersweet doing this one is because I lost a good friend of mine, Donnie O'Neal, due to COVID the other day. And it was just a bad deal. And I know a lot of us have been affected by COVID, but for me, I mean, I've got a handful of anglers that have really touched me that have passed away from it. Mark Pack and now Donnie. And, there's another guy, Skeeter Fowler, that's an angler in East Texas that's battling COVID still. But, for this memorable event, I was actually staying at Donnie O'Neal's house. It was at Lake Travis in 2017 for the FLW Tour event. And Donnie was kind of my point of contact over there. I got some information about the lake. He gave me a handful of spots, but mainly he told me the areas I needed to go focus on. You see, Donnie was an absolute hammer in that area. He was a threat to win just about any tournament in Central Texas. Heck of an angler. I know he came over to Rayburn with his mom and won a big couples championship a couple years ago also. But Donnie marked up a map, circled some areas I need to look at, told me a few patterns I really need to look at, 1 or 2 spots that might pay off. And of course, this was before, there was all these off-limit rules, and this was prior to the off-limits for that event. But I was staying at Donnie's house and ended up making the cut to the final day. And Donnie was riding as a marshal on that final day, and he rode to the lake with me. He lives outside of Austin, Lake Travis, and he rode to the lake with me, and we pulled up there. He had to go to the marshal meeting early on, and I went and got a bag of ice and got my stuff ready, and came back for him to get his life jacket and stuff out of my boat. And I was like, hey man, who'd you draw? There were some hammers in that field. Brian Thrift, Mark Rose, Clark Winland. I mean, just some absolute hammers. And he said, buddy, it's your lucky day. And he said, I drew you. And to be able to go out on a final day with one of your friends, the guy who rode to the lake with you, I mean, that alone is special. And, it was pretty awesome. In that tournament, I had the second biggest sack of the tournament on day 2 of the event. I'd caught him on a big spinner bait on a flat. I was fishing with a good friend of mine on the last day, and so they didn't put a cameraman on my boat. I was in 6th going into the final day, and they gave him an iPad. And anytime there was something cool that was going to happen or things were going down, he was supposed to film on the iPad. And, went to my first spot, caught a limit, and I'd been catching them early. Eventually left there, caught a bedfish that helped out big time. But ultimately, I didn't have the bag I needed to really propel me on the final day. And this is a lake that the weights weren't real big. I had caught like 21 or 22 pounds on day 2. Brian Thrift had caught 26 on the first day, which is one of the biggest sacks that locals could really remember on that lake at the time. And so, we knew there was room to make a jump if you caught a good bag. And I had at that point, I don't know, 12, 13 pounds, which was a solid bag. I knew it would keep me in 6th place, as far as money-wise and everything. But we were coming into the weigh-in, and I was getting close to the weigh-in, and there was a marina there I hadn't practiced, hadn't fished, and Donnie had told me prior to the event that they like metal on this lake, and don't hesitate to fish any of these metal pilings and stuff that were going down in the water. And this particular marina had a cable car system that was coming down on it. And I mean, we're talking like with 15 minutes left before I have to run to weigh-in, you know, and this was still a couple miles from weigh-in. You know, I looked at him, I slowed down, and I said, a good friend of mine told me to go fish this spot before I got here. And he had this crap-eating grin on his face, and he turned the iPad on. Didn't say a word. We idled around the back of the marina, and we're talking, I've got 5 minutes to fish before I have to like skedaddle out of this no wake zone and run to the weigh-in. And he just gets this look on his face, gets the iPad ready, and just starts holding it up as we start idling in there. And I pull up there and throw that spinner bait through that collection of metal pipes and wires and things. No bite. You know, I make 2 or 3 throws with it. I pick up a swim bait, make 2 or 3 throws with it, don't get a bite. And pick up a Wacky Rig Senko, skip it in there, don't get a bite. And now it's absolutely time to go, and I've got to turn the boat around. And I pick up my swim bait rod, and on film I even say this, I say last cast, and you can hear it on film. And I skip that swim bait along the edge of this marina dock, and I'm turning the boat around. And you know, I'm burning this swim bait down the edge of it, and the water is super clear. It's like, you can see like 15 feet deep. And I watch this giant black blob come out like a missile out from beneath this dock and smoke that bait about 5 yards from the boat. And I crank it down 5 or 6 times and swing it into the boat. I mean, it was just one of those exciting moments in my life. My wife still talks about it. She's like, I've never seen you that excited before. I mean, and at this point, you're like, I don't know how big that fish is because it's all happening so fast. And it was super long. It was a post-spawn fish. It was rail thin, but you can see in the video how big this fish's head is compared to its body, you know, as far as girth. And the fact Donnie was there with me made it one of the most memorable catches in my career. And you know, at that moment in time, it's kind of like, did I win? You know, because I needed that kicker, and I knew it propelled me in that 16, 17-pound range. And that was a monster sack. And for a split second there, you know, there was that potential. It was like, did I win? Now, of course, Donnie knew because he'd been watching the tracker throughout the day. But just that sheer moment of excitement, and to share that with my buddy Donnie O'Neal, makes it one of the most memorable catches of my entire life. And, you know, it was like, we gotta go. And it was like, we scurried around, threw the fish in. I don't even remember if I unhooked the fish or not. I might have just cut my line, threw it in the box, you know, threw out the fish, the small one, and we had to go because we were out of time. And made it back in, and it was just, like I said, one of the most memorable moments in my fishing career, catching that fish with my good friend Donnie O'Neal. And
last cast.
we gotta go.
You got 13 minutes, baby. You get 14 minutes. Show me.
You know, y'all say a prayer for Donnie, all these other guys that are out here fighting COVID. It's a bad deal. It's real. And, you know, hopefully everybody's most memorable catch will be as good as mine.